Welcome to the Ideal Investor Show. This is the podcast where we help you challenge your mindset and discover where you are. Tired of stories about other people's success? We can help you change your life, determine your time freedom point, and join us on the journey to financial success. Let's go. Hello and welcome back to the Ideal Investor Show. I wanted to talk to you about the importance of warranty. And some of you, especially the regular listeners and viewers, might say, well, Axel, you have talked about this a couple of times, but today I want to give it a little bit of a different twist. And this comes from a while ago when I started introducing you to build-to-rent properties. I did the research. I found a whole bunch of places that have really good information about it. And what happens, and I'm sure this happens to you too, when you start researching something, people start sending you invitations to the newsletter and they want you to follow and stuff. And guess what? I'm no different, right? I want you to be engaged. I want you to have a conversation with me. I want you to follow all the content that we're putting out to educate you. So my plea, like always in every episode, is go to idealinvestorshow.com and find the button to book a call and let's have a conversation. And the same thing that I just asked you is obviously happening with all the other places that I went to find out about what are the ins and outs about build-to-rent properties. The algorithms, the search engines and stuff understand when you put in build-to-rent or new build or something like that, but they're not necessarily distinguishing between a single-family residential home, like what we'll be looking for, maybe a duplex or a fourplex, and anything bigger than that. And as you're probably very aware, one of the things that has happened, I would say probably in the last 20 years, is because of the housing shortage, that smaller operators have a harder and harder time to actually succeed. So a lot of the new building stuff is actually happening from very large operators like KB Homes, DR Horton, and these kind of really, really big companies that operate nationwide. And what they do typically is they buy like 10 hectares or 20 acres or 50 acres, and they literally develop a whole neighborhood, sometimes a gated neighborhood with an HOA and all that stuff. And then within it, there's anywhere between 50, 100, 200, 300 homes. I actually, with my wife, we once lived when we first came to California in such a neighborhood. It wasn't gated or anything like that, but it was called Sycamore Ranch because the land was originally called Sycamore Ranch, and then the developers bought it and they built, I think, probably about 150 homes there. And so the efficiency is obviously for the builder to build a large development so they can order wood for 100 or 150 or 200 homes, and they can buy a lot of the things like pipes and electrical wire and power outlets and all the kind of standard stuff in much bigger quantities and get better prices. The other thing is when they actually get approval and permits for a project like that, it gives their team work typically for, like I think in Sycamore Ranch where we lived, it took them something like 3 or 4 years to build out all of it. Now, this was completely single-family homes, and most of the homes were between 2,500 and 3,500 square feet, so they were really big homes. So it took not a long time, but a while to build all these homes. So these crews are basically available. They have like a little show homes with different floor plans and all that kind of stuff. What I wanted to talk about is partially in the context of build-to-rent houses, but I stumbled upon something in the context of these large organizations like DR Horton, because one thing that has happened is that there is only so much you can ask in your asking price for a new house. Then add on top of that it takes a while to actually get a permit. Right? So if they started applying for a permit, let's say in 2018, 2019, and they're in an area where it only takes a few years for a full development, 100 or 150 houses or stuff. It's not like a single-family home permit. So let's say it took them 3 or 4 years to get the permit, get everything settled, and now they're actually going to start construction. What has happened in this time, any time between 2019, even if they went for the permit in 2020 or something like that, at the time that they most likely asked for the permit and the pricing that they had in mind that they wanted to charge people for those homes did not include what had happened to interest rates. So what does that mean? When they did their calculations, let's say they said, well, here is a $350,000 home, And if somebody wants to buy it with the mortgages that were available at that time and that had been available the last 10 years before that, then let's say the payment for that house would have been all in with everything $2,000 a month. And now that these houses are coming to the point where they actually step by step finish and people can actually buy them and then move in, interest rates are totally different. And now that the house costs $3,000 a month. Now, one thing that happens, obviously, is that way fewer people can afford $3,000 a month than can afford $2,000 a month. The other thing is, because of the pandemic and a lot of other things and inflation, the price of the goods, the materials that a company like D.R. Horton calculated it would take to build the house has gone up a lot too. So they may have thought, okay, we can sell the house for $350,000 and it costs us to build the house $275,000. Now, with all the increases in inflation, they have to pay $350,000 to build it. So now they want to obviously try to sell it for $420,000 to $450,000. So that also means it's not really $3,000, even with the increased rate, but closer to $4,000 a month, right? And I told you in another episode a little while ago that the average in the United States is now approaching $3,000 a month on mortgage. And that's not just on new houses. This includes also all the existing houses. So you can imagine what that means. Now, what can they do and what do they do? And that's what I stumbled upon and I wanted to tell you about. And that is they're trying to kind of rein in the cost for them to build the houses. And when they're a really large organization and they finish basically different stages of houses in a 100-unit or 200-unit neighborhood, they start out and the first house is probably ready for the first inspection after 3 months. And then there will be houses ready for inspection every few days. So the city is going to have an inspector that is basically coming to the property on a daily basis, looking at different houses in different stages and improving the completion of that stage, the framing and the roofing and the electrical and the plumbing and stuff like that. And what is being found and what I stumbled upon and I want to warn you about is that because these are large organizations that build large neighborhoods and they basically try to save money and they can't really save it on the materials. So where they can actually save it is in the craftsmanship and in the quality and in the quality assurance. And so there is report after report and lawsuit for these large developments where the people that actually bought the properties and ultimately moved in found out very quickly that the quality of the building was not very good. And they started having all kinds of problems. So I can't and don't want to go down the rabbit hole of what all the things are that can go wrong, but it actually illustrates the importance for you to make sure that you get warranties on everything, that you get home warranties. I had a house built for myself, a 10-year warranty on any kind of major systems and then shorter warranties on other stuff. And also, before you move in, before you actually go signing, and this would be applicable not just when you buy a house for your residence, but also when you buy one of those build-to-rent homes as an investment, have your own inspection. I think you might agree that it totally makes sense on a renovated property, but with this experience and with these reports and all these lawsuits going on, I think it makes at least as much, if not more, sense to also do this on a new home. It might be a little counterintuitive to think, well, the thing is brand new, what can they find? Well, you would be surprised if you assume that the building quality is not what it should be because they're trying to cut corners to lower costs. Then you really need to be vigilant because the best point in time to make sure that everything is as good and as perfect and as high quality as possible is before you actually have the closing and sign on the dotted line. So warranties, inspections, insurance, all those things, if you apply this to build-to-rent investment properties, please make sure that you get those so that you don't end up being one of those people who buy a house maybe for the first time in their life as a resident, move in, and then for the next 2 years constantly just have to fight with the builder on what is under warranty and on whose fault was it and all that kind of stuff. All right, that's it for today. Be well and stay safe, and I talk to you tomorrow.